Hello everyone, this is Fadi, and I'd like to welcome you back again to another video of our new series, Atheism and Islam. And we've been using really Muhammad and a lot of his moral actions, or immoral actions in this case, as one of those examples for our Muslim friends who are claiming to have been leaving Islam and becoming atheists, to show them that even at times atheism may condone some of this behavior using the way atheists might think. But regardless of why you have left, the fact that you are morally troubled by these actions indicate that there is much more than just being an atheist. There is other things, other alternatives that we would like, of course, for you to explore, and that's being our Lord Jesus Christ. Last time, David, we talked about the example of Muhammad breaking a promise, and the fact that he made a promise to some of his wives, two of them, in this case, Hafsa and Aisha, about not to sleep with a slave woman, and then somehow his God was troubled by the fact that he actually made such a promise and came into the rescue as always.
Got to break that promise, Muhammad.
Exactly. Yeah. So promise breakers, right? You know, like you said. So what are we going to talk about today?
Well, it's related to stuff. We were just talking about Muhammad's relationship with his sex slave, and we'd mentioned that Allah revealed to Muhammad, Surah 33, verse 50, that he's allowed to have sex with his slave girls. And then so that's why when he eventually forbade himself to have sex with her, that's why Allah had to step in and say, no, you can't stop having sex with your slave girl. You need to. So go ahead and break that oath.
Right.
But now we want to focus a little more on what Islam says about having sex with your female captives just in general, not just for Muhammad, but for Muslims in general. So there are plenty of verses in the Quran on this, but there's one in particular. When once we read the historical background, we find out just how disturbing this practice actually was. So let's go ahead and read Surah 4, verse 24. So Surah 4, verse 24 begins like this. Also prohibited are women already married, except those whom your right hands possess. So think about this. Also prohibited. It's talking about prohibited from, what's it talking about prohibited from here? Marriage or sex? What's it talking about? Well, it's talking about prohibited for sex. Also prohibited are women already married, right?
Yeah.
Women already married. So you're not allowed to have sex with women who are already married, except those whom your right hands possess. And so this is Surah 4, verse 24, and notice the note on the bottom there. Says, see also Surah 23, verses 1 to 6, Surah 33:50, and 70:22 to 30. So 33:50, that's a verse where Muhammad is told that he can have sex with his captives and slave girls. And there in Surah 23 and verse 70 and Surah 70, this is where Muslims had already been told that it's okay to have sex with their captives and slave girls. So notice, here's the situation. In the battles and campaigns that they were going on, Allah had already revealed that Muslims are allowed to take the female captives and have sex with them and then sell them in the next town if they want, right? So Muslims were doing this, but in the previous battles, what was happening was they're going in, they're marching to war, they're killing the men, and then the women are left over, and then they're taking the women and using them as sex slaves and then selling them or keeping them if they really like their sex slave, right?
Right.
So that's what had happened up until then. However, when we get to the time of Surah 4, Muslims conquered an area, but this time they captured the men and the women. So they captured the husbands and the wives. So Muhammad's followers came to him and said, wait a minute, we know that we're allowed to have sex with our captives. We know that we're allowed to have sex with our captives because it's already been revealed to us. But now we've got women who are married. We've got married women that we've captured. But isn't that adultery, Muhammad? We're worried that we're going to be committing adultery by having sex with these captives. So we know we're allowed to have sex with our captives, but we also know we're not supposed to commit adultery. So what are we going to do here? Just so everyone knows what the answer was, and this is the historical background of Surah 4, verse 24. Let's go ahead and pull up the passage from Sunan Abu Dawud.
It's amazing that everything is about sex.
Yeah. Sunan Abu Dawud, 2150. The Apostle of Allah sent a military expedition to Autas on the occasion of the Battle of Hunain. They met their enemy and fought with them. They defeated them and took them captives. Some of the companions of the Apostle of Allah were reluctant to have intercourse with the female captives in the presence of their husbands who were unbelievers. So they had husbands who were unbelievers. Their husbands were still alive. So some of the companions were reluctant to have intercourse when these women still had husbands who were around. So what happened? So Allah, the Exalted, sent down the Quranic verse, and all married women are forbidden unto you, save those captives whom your right hands possess. That is to say, they are lawful for them when they complete their waiting period. So here's a different situation. The Muslims had already been taking captives, having sex with their captives, raping their captives, selling the captives when they got to the next town, trading the captives for weapons, according to the Muslim sources.
Right.
Here's a new situation. We captured the men with the women, the husbands with the wives. Now these are women that if we have sex with them, it's going to be adultery. What are we going to do? So these men, notice the Muslims were willing to say, wait a minute, this sounds like it might be wrong. We're reluctant to have sex with them. That's when Allah reveals, He gives them the answer. Yes, of course you're not allowed to have sex with married women unless you've captured them. If you've captured them, then it's perfectly acceptable to have sex with them, rape them, trade them, whatever. It doesn't matter if they're already married. It's not adultery because I'm saying it's okay. So there are Muslims who, and I'm familiar with Muslims who have left Islam upon finding out what Islam teaches on this. In fact, Nabil acknowledged that this was the first thing that really started bothering him about the character of Muhammad. And I've heard from several other Muslims who've left Islam that this is what really started bothering them about Muhammad. The idea that you're taking women, the women aren't starting the battle. The people are starting the battle. But, since there's a battle going on, you've defeated the enemy. Now you get to go in and rape these women, use them, sell them, whatever you want. And they become your sex slaves, and then or you can sell them to other people as sex slaves. Nabil said, Nabil was thinking to himself, wait a minute, if my mother and wife, if my mother and sister were captured in battle, would I think it's okay to take them and use them as sex slaves? No, I don't think that Allah is going to be telling these people this. And so he recognized it as a moral problem. So there are Muslims that I'm aware of, so I'm assuming there are many, many more, who recognize these things and then who leave Islam. But here's the interesting thing. Some of those Muslims who leave Islam over these kinds of teachings, that it's okay to have sex even with married women, it's okay to rape your female captives, that this is something that's good in the eyes of Allah. Some Muslims who leave Islam on these moral grounds then become atheists.
Right.
And they don't seem to realize, they think they've gotten away from the problem. They don't seem to realize that now the problem becomes, wait a minute, you understand that it's wrong, but now you have a new foundation, according to which there's nothing really wrong about it. You can say it's wrong according to your feelings. You can say it's wrong according to your culture. You can say it's wrong according to the United Nations. But how do you say that behavior is actually evil and immoral? Because your average atheist wants to say, what are you talking about? I just know this. I just know this. Well, we know that you believe it. We know that you feel strongly about it. But we know why. You've been raised all your... Obviously, there are cultures where it's perfectly normal to rape your female captives. Obviously, that's happened throughout history. So if those people thought it was okay, you feel strongly that it's not, who's to say who's right here? What are we given atheism? There are plenty of animals that will rape other animals. We don't call it rape in the sense that we talk about in terms of a crime, because they're animals. But they have no problem doing it. They have no problem taking a female of the same species and having sex with it, whether the female agrees to it or not. So, given atheism, what's the basis for saying that this behavior is actually immoral and evil? And all you can do on atheism is just say, well, it goes against what my society teaches now. If I had been raised in a different society, I believe something else, or it goes against my feelings. You can't say it's actually objectively immoral or evil behavior. And so if you think it's a problem for Islam, well, guess what? It is. But guess what? If you're an atheist, it's still a problem. It's just a different kind of problem, because now you're condemning the behavior, even though you have no real basis for condemning the behavior.
It's almost like an act of hypocrisy. You call yourself an atheist, but at the same time, somehow you apply certain moral, principles to this action because it troubled you. Mm-hmm. And yet, in general, you should be saying, well, that's their culture. That's what Islam teaches. That's what basically Muslims believe in. It's none of my business. And so on and so forth. Well, I hope that everyone has been enjoying this series. So far we've covered a lot of grounds. I hope that you will take these videos and even share them with your friends who are atheists in general, of course, but in particular those who are ex-Muslims claiming to have become atheists. Either way, there is hope out there. I did pray one time with one such young Muslim who is from Saudi, who declared himself to be an atheist and later on came to follow the Lord, and we prayed with him. So there is hope out there. The Lord is still at work. The Holy Spirit can convict people of sin, judgment, and righteousness, and that's one of those examples. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you, my dear brother here, and until we meet again, have a blessed day. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. We can't make these quality videos without the help of partners like you. So please consider becoming a Patreon supporter today at patreon.com/CIRA International. I want to make sure you always get notified when we release a new video, so please click the bell to be notified, and of course, make sure to subscribe to this channel. If this video was helpful to you, please click the thumbs up. Thank you.